Hey, what's going on everybody? My name is Brody or Brokemon, and welcome to the first top 5/top 10 on my channel. Now, this is going to be my top 5 favorite Gen 1 Pokemon, and keep in mind that this is just my opinion and you can have your own opinions, and just let me know in the comment section down below who your top 5 favorite Gen 1 Pokemon are, and I would love to see what you guys have to say. So without further ado, let's get started with the top 5 Generation 1 Pokemon. Generation 1, the generation that started this whole legend. The Pokemon universe was started with Generation 1, and it has held its ground today. It's got that nice 8-bit graphics, it's got that nice beat bop boop music that has literally only that noise in it, but it still is a fantastic nostalgic, game for a lot of us Pokemon fans. And unfortunately, with all these new games and improvements that Pokemon has made, Generation 1 just isn't as fun for me anymore. I used to love playing through Pokemon Blue over and over and over. I would beat it, I would start a new file, beat it again, and I would just keep on doing that. And now with all these new things added like Wi-Fi battling and all those kind of cool things that Pokemon has added, Generation 1 just doesn't seem as fun to me anymore. But that doesn't change the fact that I love a lot of the Pokemon from this generation, and it doesn't change the fact that Generation 1 Pokemon are absolutely freaking sick. So without further ado, I'm going to start this top 5 now and list you guys my top 5 favorite Pokemon from Generation 1. To kick off my top 5, I'm going to start off with my favorite fossil Pokemon in existence, and that is KABUTOPS. Now if you guys remember back in Generation 1, you had the option between 2 fossils when you went into Mount Moon and beat Team Rocket. Did I say beated? I meant defeated Team Rocket. So you had the choice between Ammonite, which was the Helix fossil, or Kabuto, which was the Dome fossil. Now while I was playing Pokemon Blue, which was my first ever Pokemon game, I also spent a lot of time on the Nintendo 64 playing Pokemon Stadium. And through that game, I ended up learning all different kinds of Pokemon that I could put on my team, and I started finding some ones that I really liked and that I wanted to use when I was playing Pokemon Blue. So while I was playing Stadium, I basically based my teams off of who looked like they would be the toughest or the strongest Pokemon that I could possibly use. And KABUTOPS just looked like an ultra beast with his scythe arms and just his sinister look. He just looks like he would destroy anything that went in his way, and he just looked really powerful. And in that generation, he was extremely powerful up until the point where more and more Pokemon started getting introduced. He's not that great anymore. Unfortunately, he is now in the NU tier, or never used tier, in competitive Pokemon battling. So he's not really like a competitive tank or anything, but he definitely looks amazing, and there's just something about Pokemon that have like blade arms that make me really like them a lot. I don't know what it is, but I just think it looks really awesome, and he has a very strong, place in my heart, being the first ever fossil Pokemon that I ever reincarnated. Anyways guys, that is my 5th favorite, now on to the next. Coming in at number 4 on my list of top 5 Generation 1 Pokemon is Hitmonlee. Now the way I started liking Hitmonlee is a little bit different than KABUTOPS. Originally I really hated Hitmonlee. I thought it was the weirdest, stupidest looking Pokemon I've ever seen in my life. What kind of thing has eyes on its torso, not even like a neck or a head, it just got eyes there on its torso. I thought it was kind of like a crappy Pokemon, but then as I started learning more and more about Pokemon, I found out that this thing was actually the best of the 3 Hitmon evolutions. Now the 3 Hitmon evolutions are all based on what your Pokemon Tyrogue's EVs are when it reaches level 20. So if your Tyrogue has a higher defense stat when it hits level 20, it will evolve into Hitmonchan. If it has a higher attack stat when it hits level 20, it will evolve into Hitmonlee. Or if its attack and defense are balanced, it will evolve into Hitmontop. Now when I was playing through Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver a bit later on, because this is when I started knowing a little bit more about stats and how much they matter and everything, I decided I needed a fighting type for my team, and I wanted someone who was nice and powerful. And I knew that Hitmonlee was a Pokemon that can get a lot of damage off because I saw its base attack stat was pretty high. So I decided to go ahead and get a Hitmonlee. So I EV trained a little bit on the Tyrogue so that its attack would be higher, and I evolved it into Hitmonlee, and I did not regret it. My favorite combination to use on a Hitmonlee is to use the wide lens to increase its accuracy by 10% on all attacks it uses, and it will never miss a single high jump kick. I used a PP max on its high jump kick, and I used the wide lens. I never missed a single high jump kick. I was just wrecking everybody. It had insanely high attack. I was destroying everything. But unfortunately for Hitmonlee, it is only in the RU, or rarely used tier, just because I feel like there are better Pokemon out there that can get the job done better. But obviously for Generation 1 Pokemon, Hitmonlee was definitely one of the most threatening fighting types in the game, and there's no question in my mind that even today people still rate him high up there in the best fighting types in the game. Coming in at the number 3 spot on my list is Gengar. Now Gengar was the only ghost type Pokemon in the first generation, along with his pre-evolutions Ghastly and Haunter. And the way I started liking Gengar was one day I was just walking around in the Lavender Tower, you know, just casually living my life in the Lavender Tower, and then I came across a Ghastly, and I caught this Ghastly because it looked really cool, and then it evolved into Haunter, and I was like, okay, awesome. And as I was training my Haunter up, it wasn't evolving, so I was just expecting that's how it would stay. But then I went on Pokemon Stadium, and I was going to pick Haunter for my team because I actually never used Haunter before this point, and he was doing absolutely amazing, so I figured I'd try him in Pokemon Stadium. And then I saw that there was one more Pokemon after him, which was Gengar, and I was like, are you serious right now? How do I get this thing? So I went on the computer and I tried to find out how to get this Gengar, and I found out you needed to trade to find, you know, to get it to evolve. And this was very disappointing to me. And for a while after that, I stopped catching Ghastlys and Haunters altogether because I knew there was no way I was going to get them because I had no one to trade with. But then came Generation 4, and I was in about grade 6. I can't even remember how old I was actually. It was around grade 6 for me, and a lot of my friends at school were playing Pokemon on their DS's, and that's when I knew I had to catch this Haunter and find someone who would trade with me. So I got the Haunter from that girl in the Snow City. I can't remember exactly what it's called now. But I traded that Haunter for someone else's like Graveler, and we traded back, so he got a Golem and I got my Gengar, and holy crap, Gengar was absolutely outstanding for me. I loved that guy so much. He was destroying the Elite Four. He was my best Pokemon for sure, better even than my starter. I loved him so much, and then he ended up just, you know, continuing to be insane. And even in this generation, Gengar is absolutely insane. He's considered one of the best Ghost-type Pokemon in the game. And if you look at his stats, his high special attack and high speed, and his sub-poison typing, which is super effective against fairies now, make him a Pokemon that is in the OU tier, or overused tier, so he's one of the top Pokemon there. He's also one of the only Pokemon that I like that actually got a Mega Evolution in general, and he's the only Pokemon from Generation 1 that's in my top 5 that got a Mega Evolution. And this one has been banned to Ubers, which is like where all the legendary Pokemon are banned to. So Mega Gengar has extremely high special attack and high speed, and he even has the ability Shadow Tag so that your opponent's Pokemon can't switch out, making him an absolutely insane Pokemon. So even today, people still appreciate the amazing powerfulness of Gengar, and I don't think that's going to be going away anytime soon. Coming in at number 2 on my list is Jolteon. Now you guys are going to realize through watching my videos in the future that I really love Eevee and its evolutions, and Jolteon is my personal favorite of the first 3 that were available in Generation 1. Jolteon is also the first one that I used, and it's also the coolest design out of any Eevee evolution in my personal opinion. Now when I was playing Pokemon Blue back in Generation 1 when I was pretty young, I remember I was just exploring around and I found that secret back entrance to that building where you could walk inside and go upstairs and grab that Eevee. And I got that Eevee, and I already knew what it was at this time. This was already at a point where I knew what Eevee was, and I knew that I wanted to evolve it into a Pokemon type that I didn't already have on my team, and I started off with Charizard, and I think I already had a Gyarados at that point. So I decided I would go with the Jolteon option, and boy did I'm definitely very proud of that. Jolteon was very helpful for me in that playthrough, and I ended up destroying the water / ice type girl in the Elite Four with it, and it was really helpful to me. Now in today's game, it is not used very much just because there's a lot of other Eevee evolutions that can kind of do the same thing. It all depends really on what type you're looking for. And when it comes to competitive Pokemon battling, Jolteon is placed in the RU tier, which is rarely used, but I still use it sometimes in OU battles, and a lot of people still use it just because it's very fast, and some of its abilities can be kind of useful, like Volt Absorb if you want to switch it into a Thunder attack to gain some HP back, or if you get paralyzed or burned or something, it gets way faster with its Quick Feet ability, and this thing can definitely hit hard with some powerful electric type attacks. So that is basically why I like Jolteon. It is just a Pokemon that has a lot of nostalgic value to me, and I still feel like today people use Jolteon a lot just because of its speed and high special attack and its nice offensive electric typing. So that is number 2, and now time for the grand finale of number 1. Coming in at number 1 on my list is SANDSLASH. SANDSLASH is my all-time favorite Generation 1 Pokemon, and some of you guys are probably pretty surprised to hear that. Now let me explain to you guys a little bit why SANDSLASH is my favorite. When I was really little, like before I even got the team with the Jolteon on it, before I beat the Elite Four for the first time, I basically had no idea what I was doing. So I had a Charizard on my team, and I had a bunch of other random Pokemon on my team, and alongside that Charizard I had a SANDSLASH. Now this SANDSLASH was a Pokemon that I would basically send out every time that Charizard fainted. My Charizard was like level 80 and all my other Pokemon were level like 30, and then SANDSLASH was sitting somewhere in the middle at level 50. So SANDSLASH is just such a big time, like, you know, nostalgic Pokemon for me, because I used to use it just to back up my dead Charizard that I always use for everything else. And then I even wrote an essay, a provincial essay in grade 3. If you guys don't know what a provincial essay is, like a provincial thing is the Canadian word for like state. It's like throughout the state. I wrote a provincial essay in grade 3 about SANDSLASH. That is how much I love this thing. This thing had so much of an effect on me. I always wanted to have a SANDSLASH, and it is just an amazing Pokemon. Not many people use it because, you know, there's just so many better Pokemon out there to use, but I mean, its stats aren't even that bad. Currently, SANDSLASH is sitting in the never used tier of Pokemon competitive battling, and that is simply because he is useless completely without his ability Sandveil, and that is an ability that is banned. So if you have a SANDSLASH with Sandveil, you cannot use it. A SANDSLASH with Sandveil is absolutely amazing. It can dodge a bunch of attacks, you can set up double teams and sword dances, and then completely destroy the other team. But unfortunately now, SANDSLASH just has no use because there's a lot of ground types that are way better at taking hits, way better at dishing out damage than SANDSLASH. So sadly, my little buddy's not being used that much anymore, but you know what, SANDSLASH, you always got a spot in my heart, and I love you more than anything in Generation 1. So anyways guys, that is my number 1 Pokemon. And that concludes my top 5 Generation 1 Pokemon. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Remember, it is all opinion based, so these guys aren't literally the most powerful ultimate beasts of Generation 1. They're just my favorite Pokemon from Generation 1. In the comment section down below, I'd love to hear who your top 5 favorite Pokemon are from Generation 1, and also leave some suggestions for what I should do a top 5 of next. I'm going to be doing a top 5 Pokemon from every single generation, so you don't need to suggest that, but I'd like to hear any other ideas you guys want me to do a top 5 or top 10 about. So thank you guys once again for watching. Drop a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Have a great day everybody, and peace out.